Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. Good evening and welcome all. It's been a while. Hay alguien que necesita intérprete para la Junta? Okay. This meeting is being recorded or broadcast. Images and sound may be captured of those attending the meeting. First on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Paceno, would you lead us, please?
Please stand, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We're going to take a moment of silence in honor of all the Garlic Festival victims, both those who have passed away and those who are injured, and anyone else who was impacted by this tragic event in our community. So we'll take that moment of silence. Thank you. I'm going to make just a few comments. Our deepest heartfelt condolences go out to the families who lost a loved one and to others who were shot or injured at the Garlic Festival on July 28th. Words feel so inadequate in expressing how sad we feel about the loss of two children, ages 6 and 13 from San Jose, and a young man in his 20s visiting from New York. Their families and friends are constantly in our thoughts and prayers. There were literally hundreds of GUSD students, staff, and parents at the Garlic Festival volunteering in various locations in the park when the shootings occurred. They have been deeply affected by this tragic event. The shooting at the festival was a life-changing event and will no doubt leave an indelible print on our brains for the rest of our lives. But terrible tragedies like this can lead to so much good, and that's exactly what has happened in our community. Incredible acts of heroism and bravery occurred from the moment of the shootings, beginning with the volunteers putting the safety of others before their own. There has been an outpouring of support, donations, and services since the shootings from the Gilroy community. The generosity of this community has been amazing and demonstrates why we all love Gilroy so much. For 10 years, since the horrific shootings that occurred at Sandy Hook Elementary, our district has trained, drilled, and prepared for a school shooting. We've worked very closely with the Gilroy Police Department, the Gilroy Fire Department, and the city. The good news is that our collaborative efforts with police, fire, and the city have paid off these past 10 days as we put our trainings to work, and that led to so many good outcomes, way too many for me to outline this evening. We commend the GPD and the Gilroy Fire Department, all the first responders, and many citizens that were the first on the scene and treated the victims and the injured. Their response to the shootings was extraordinary and no doubt saved many lives. Our efforts as a district began immediately with bus drivers transporting people to 3 schools, counseling centers, reunification sites, shelters, and the Victim Assistance Center were immediately established and were in operations all last week. Counseling centers are still in operation this week at 2 of our sites. In total, 8 of our sites have housed programs and services since the shooting. We want to acknowledge the community-based agencies, Community Solutions and Rebecca's, and the County of Santa Clara for providing counselors at these sites for so many days now. And I want to thank my cabinet and members of our administrative team for the roles that they've taken this past week to support our community in every way that they could. They've been amazing, working many long hours beyond their normal day and doing whatever was needed to help. In closing, as I said last Thursday night at the downtown vigil, we cannot let this horrific event define us. We will rise above it, and we will become stronger and even more united as a community. The heroic acts during the shooting and the outpouring of love and support since is what will define us. Next year's Garlic Festival will go on, and we will all be there to demonstrate to the world that we are Gilroy strong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are Gilroy strong. We are Gilroy unified. All right. Next, item 3C, approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. We have an agenda. Next, general public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any item or any issues within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board that is not listed on the agenda. No action can be taken on an item not on the agenda, but may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. Members of the public may also address the board on an agenda item before or during the board's consideration of that item. Individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, thank you very much. Report of action taken in closed session. We have 2 cases of removal, suspension, expulsion of a student. We'll begin with case number 2019-29. What is the will of the board?
Move to expel.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Case number 2019-30. What is the will of the board?
Move to expel.
We have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to readmission of students. Trustee Good made a motion to not readmit the student in case number 2019-18. Trustee Munshi seconded the motion. The motion passed unanimously by all 7 board members. Furthermore, Trustee Good made a motion to readmit the student in case 2018-18. Trustee Fayak seconded the motion. The motion carried unanimously by all 7 board members. Trustee Good made a motion to not readmit the student in case 2018-13. Trustee Munshi seconded the motion. The motion passed 6-0 with Trustee Diaz absent. And that is all the report from closed session. This brings us to item 4, the superintendent's report. Dr. Flores.
Thank you. The very first thing I'd like to do is introduce you to our newest administrator, and that is Adelina Severo. Adelina, why don't you stand up? She joined us around the first week of July, right? I was gone at the time, so she was here when I got back. But anyway, she's our new program administrator of intervention and enrichment, a position that we presented to you some time ago. Adelina was a teacher for over 10 years in the social sciences and foreign languages, Spanish and French, and she's been a middle school principal and assistant principal for 8 years in Pajaro Valley Unified School District. So we're very excited to have her join us. She jumped right in at the management retreat, was offering ideas and support and information, and I really appreciated that. So welcome, Adelina. We're happy to have you here.
Welcome to Gilroy Unified. Wonderful.
All right. Well, believe it or not, I did a lot of other things this month than what I've done the last 10 days. Starting with on July 8th, I had a meeting with Council Member Carl Marks. Is that how she said? Carol Marks. And she had made contact with someone outside of Gilroy who had some ideas about how we could improve our CTE program. So I've set up a meeting with that person.
What is CTE?
Career Technical Education Program. We all catch each other on our acronyms. On July 12th, I was able to go, and so was James Pace, over to see the YMCA, our Superpower Summer School Program, do a competition called Thingamajig. It was a lot of fun. I ended up staying all morning because it was so cool. But the kids were creating a lot of different, what I'd call STEM-like projects. And one was a great one where they created a little vehicle that went down a ramp, and then you had to see whose would jump the furthest when they hit the bottom, and that was really cool. But there were a lot of great activities that morning that we were able to see. Kids were totally engaged. In fact, there was so much yelling I left with a big headache. They do a lot of chants in that program. So anyway, it was very cool. On the 25th, James and I also went to the Cannery Row grand opening ceremony. Cannery Row is a new affordable housing project in Gilroy. It's within a few blocks of South Valley Middle School. And it was actually, we were very impressed with the project, very well done. We were invited to come to the grand opening, and we were presented with a $1,000 donation from Meta Housing, one of the partners in this project. So that was nice. We got to leave with some money. I always go to the Gilroy Garlic Festival every year and work in the Rotary Wine Pavilion. So I had the opportunity to do that. I was not there on Sunday. But the Wine Pavilion, as I've mentioned before, is one of our two major fundraisers, and we raise thousands of dollars every year that comes right back to the district. So that was three of us who are selling tickets. It's always a really interesting job. You get to meet some characters and some people who probably have a little too much, but we sell a lot of wine. We raise a lot of money for kids, but it was fun. On the 30th, Paul Nadeau, our facilities director, and I had the opportunity to meet with two officials from the Santa Clara County Office of Education to inform them about our Brownell project. And we ended up being locked out of their building, so we had the meeting out on the street. So we were showing them our designs out on the street, which was fine. And then Paul walked them around. It was a really good meeting because they had some misinformation and incomplete information. We were able to fully inform them about the project, and I think they left very excited, actually, about the project. So that was a good meeting. On August 1st, we're gearing up for the school year, as you can imagine. So first, we have 5 new principals. So we scheduled several trainings for the 5 new principals. So the first one was Cheryl and I met with our 5 new principals on August 1st in the afternoon about school safety. Very timely subject. And then the next morning, all of cabinet and other administrators in the district met with the 5 principals, and we had a very long agenda. We didn't even get through the agenda by noon. We had so many things we wanted to impart to the new principals, so we've had to schedule an expulsion training later in the month. But after those 2 meetings, I was very impressed with our 5 new principals. They asked a lot of good questions. They demonstrated they already know a lot about how to run a school, so we all felt really good after our meetings with them. On August 1st, I mentioned earlier, there was a community vigil downtown Gilroy. I think there were 2,000 or 3,000 people that attended that, and I was asked to speak, and I gave a speech that was much longer than the comments I made tonight. On August 5th and 6th, this Monday and Tuesday, we had our management retreat, and thank you, board members, for buying us all these shirts. It was greatly appreciated by the management staff, and so we took a picture with all of us. We had 2 very long days at our management retreat. On Tuesday, the second day of the management retreat, Cheryl and I were asked to please be at the Rotary meeting, so I don't normally leave the management retreat, but I'm so glad that I went to the Rotary meeting, and I can't talk about it right now. There are a lot of people there that were there when the shootings occurred and actually assisted with some of the victims. So it was a very emotional meeting because Rotary, we all volunteer every day for 3 days, and it's really had a big impact on our Rotarians. And then on August 8th, today, we had our new teacher orientation this morning. I got a chance to talk to most of the 55 people in the room, and I think we've hired Paul has told me this over and over, we've hired a lot of really good new teachers, and I know the GTA had them for the afternoon, but we're really pleased about our new teachers. And then all staff return on August 12th. Is that right, Paul? And we start school August 14th. That's next week. Feels like it should be like a month from now, but it's next week. So we're gearing up for it. We're ready. We're looking forward to a really good school year. We know we're going to have some staff and students upset when school starts, so we have a plan. We're training. We're going to do it every site on the 12th, and we're going to have counselors available on the 12th for staff. And then on the 14th, we'll have counselors available as long as we need them at every single school site. So we're prepared. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to give a shout out to Linda, who had the brilliant idea about the shirts, and Twin, who saved the day on making the shirts happen. So thank you both. All right. This brings us to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
All right. This is a roll call, for there are resolutions in here. So.
Henrique Diaz,
Yes.
B.C. Doyle,
Yes.
Juan Piat,
Yes.
Mark Good,
Yes.
Anisha Lynchy,
Yes.
James Pace,
Yes.
Linda Pacetta,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to say a word about the next item.
Okay, where are we? We're at 6A. Gilroy Unified School District website update.
Right.
Dr. Flores.
I asked Melanie Corona to make this presentation this evening because we were having our, I meet regularly with those people that I evaluate, and we were having one of those meetings. And it just hit me how much I didn't know that she had been doing to our website. And I was so impressed what she's accomplished with a number of people's help who are here this evening. Really, it's transformed our website. And I wanted her to tell you, not everything she told me, because that was a long meeting. I told her 10 minutes tonight. But we want to share with you what's happening on our website. And she's also going to share a little bit about our communication the last 10 days, because it was phenomenal.
Thank you, Dr. Flores, Board Member Pace, and board members. Thank you for having me. I'm slightly nervous. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Natalie Martinez. Natalie supports Alvaro, but then she also puts on a superhero cape and helps with a lot of the design of the website, brainstorming, figuring out best practices, and developing the aesthetic. So you all have a PowerPoint in your board packet, but we decided, with Dr. Flores' permission, that we would actually just do a live tour of the website. It makes more sense rather than really static screenshots. So we'll walk you through and hopefully get you as excited about this as Natalie and I tend to be in my office with the door closed when we're high-fiving people and people walk by and wonder what's going on. So the first thing that I want to say is that dessert tonight in the board chambers was absolutely intentional. Our website and our social media platforms just celebrated their first birthday on August 1st. So we had little cupcakes for you as a little birthday treat.
They were delicious. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So the first thing I'd like to call your attention to is I'm going to actually just do a homepage tour, and Natalie's going to jump in when she sees me going off track or forgetting to tell you things. But I just kind of wanted to walk you through the homepage. That, of course, is our front door to the district. I think it's been really well polished in the last year. And the first thing that we're looking at is what's called a pop-up. So typically pop-ups live on our website for very short periods of time. They're to make big announcements that aren't buried somewhere else within the infrastructure of the website. Pop-ups are not my favorite thing in the world, I'll be totally honest with you, but I think in this case that it's a very necessary thing. So for this pop-up, this is live on our website right now, and it's talking about the crisis counseling services that are available at our school sites through the end of this week. The goal of the pop-up is to give the user a quick little tease of what the information is and then direct them somewhere else in the website. So you'll see that there's a read more button on it that invites users to click through and find out more information if it pertains to them. And if not, they can click the little tab down below that says don't show again and move on, or the X. So for sake of this presentation, we will move on, and we'll talk about where that read more button goes in a little bit. So this is the top half of our homepage. This is above the fold. We have our About Us that gives our staff directory, the background of the district, so on and so forth. Our department directory, which I am very pleased to say that we have cleaned up tremendously. We've consolidated information, really kind of truncated everything that needs to be there without a lot of superfluous stuff. So when I was given the directive by the superintendent that we did need a new web platform, it was like opening Pandora's box without hope at the bottom, or maybe hope was at the bottom. But we moved content over. A little background. Typically, projects like this take about 6 months, and we made the decision July 7th last year that we were going to do this. So we called up our old website provider and said, rather than doing an annual contract, we'd like to move to a month-to-month as we move content over to this new platform. And they said, so sorry, no way. You have till July 31st, and then we're going to turn you off or pay for another year. So Final Site, the platform that provides our websites now, said we can do it, and I guess you don't know what you don't know, and we thought we can do it. So there were a handful of us, Maribel and I, Natalie hadn't joined us quite yet, who worked 12 to 14 hours a day to move 50,000 pages of content across 16 websites over to the new platform. In our time moving those 50,000 pages, we did discover that there was content from one of our high schools inviting the class of 2010 to their 15-year reunion. So we made the executive decision to pull that down. And there were other kind of little rabbit holes that we jumped down to. We got things cleaned up. We have developed an aesthetic in a year, but we shortened a 6-month process into 3 weeks. And I'm very proud of that. So going back to the homepage, so there's the departments tab that will tell you everything you need to know about the workings of the district and more. Guides to our schools. These all redirect to the school websites, and you can also find where your neighborhood school is. The Board of Education, my favorite page, which includes information in your bios, your headshots, your board recognitions, the employee recognition program, other good tidbits of information. The Parent Student Resources tab is our most used tab because it's just kind of a catch-all for everything that parents need to know in the district. And then this is really cool because this tab changes as the wind blows. So right now we're really pushing enrollment. We have back to school coming, but in the future, when we really have a big employment push, we can change that tab, and we can change any of them, but that is kind of the tab that morphs. So this could be join the GUSD team. If there's, depending on other information that comes out from the board, that tab can be modified as needed. Up here in the header, you can translate the page into whatever language it suits you. You can search, of course, and then this is the employee portal. So one of the things that we did, we had a lot of business forms on the forward-facing page, and those were for internal use. Employees use them. The public doesn't need to see them. There's not anything to hide. They aren't really relevant. So we took a bunch of those and put them in the employee portal. It's really exciting. You can access it with a Gilroy Unified email address, but not anybody with a Gmail address can do it. And then this is how staff logs into their email. Here are these are quick link buttons. So again, these change kind of with what the needs of the district are. Right now, the 2019-2020 instructional calendar is a big deal, as is the Aries parent and student portal. Employment opportunities are always a big deal. Again, our schools tab. Community use of facilities, surprisingly, is a big deal for our website. People access that a lot based on the analytics that we are able to pull. And then this is kind of an answer to lots of questions that are posed in the community, the GUSD enrollment trends. It talks about declining enrollment. It talks about what the Superintendent Advisory Committee on Closing Schools is doing, et cetera, et cetera. All right, the bottom of the fold on the website is really my favorite part. This is our school district calendar. So this calendar is unique to the school district. It holds everything that anybody in the district could want to know. On our school websites, that calendar is unique to the school site. It's pretty cool. I don't think we have anything super exciting, but this redirects to a whole calendar page for the entire year. You can scroll month to month. If we need to add more information to these appointments, that's where this information pops up. We can direct people wherever we'd like them to go. I love the calendar. It's one of my favorite things. I think because the module was really hard for us to figure out and to populate appropriately, so that was very exciting.
You might want to mention Gmail or how it's updated on Google.
Oh, yeah. So this calendar is actually populated with our Google calendars, which is part of our Gilroy Unified email addresses. So once you make an appointment on the website calendar, it populates here. So you're not updating multiple calendars with multiple time changes and multiple information. It updates almost in real time. It's really cool. This is the news section. This is also my favorite thing. I have lots of favorite things about this website. This is the news section of the website. These are all called news posts. What was a real challenge for us initially is that the old web platform was sort of a bulletin board where information was just kind of put up everywhere and there wasn't a lot of rhyme or reason. And then people created pages that, again, didn't have a lot of rhyme or reason, like my reunion reference earlier. So this presents the news from Gilroy Unified as kind of a running blog. It's the story of the district. So this news is news that is pushed across all platforms in our school district. And again, we can specialize the news feeds at the school sites to reflect high school news or news just happening at Gilroy High School or Christopher High School or fill in the blank for any of the schools in our district, and then on down through middle and elementary schools. So this is a really magical thing. Again, this will pop here. It will show you, this is maybe not the best example. It will show you the news of the day. It can provide calls to action. If you need help for resources, you can click through. There are live links. And then if you just want to kind of see everything, here is that running blog. The really cool thing is that this creates a unique URL that people can use to share on social media. And that's how news is getting sent out. Yes, Natalie, sorry.
As Melanie and I were talking about this, we had a lot of discussions about the one central message and adhering to a central message. And we found that this helps us to have one message that everything points back to. The other important part of it, like Melanie said, is the sharing part of it, but it always comes back to this one thing. And as things are updated, it's just like we saw the last 10 days or so, these are living documents. So we can always update them as they go. So no matter if you see that on Facebook and you click on the link, it will always send you back to the most updated content, and it's updated once. So that, I think, has been also a thing that we found really helpful. And it can be posted not only across social media, but across all our sites. So, but again, posted once, updated once.
Let's see. All right, so you see the share buttons here. You can send a link via email, Facebook. If you want to Pinterest it, I don't know why you would, but you could. And again, this is a running kind of just story of what's happening in Gilroy Unified, and I think that this really creates a very magical interpretation of what we're doing. In the new teacher orientation today, I said that I have the best job in the world because I get to tell the story of this district and the story of the incredible staff and the incredible kids who are here. And Alvaro was laughing, but I really do believe that a lot of what I get to do is unicorns and rainbows. And I also I begged the new staff members, please don't make me tell the stories of snakes and dark holes. I don't want to know. I don't want to do that. So anyway, this is a great tool for us to get the message out over social media, via email. Principals can use these links in their messages, whatever. This is another favorite part of the website. This is a representation of our social media platforms. So even if you are not a social media user, you can still see without signing up for an account what we've got going on social media. And I think that it's a really great place for people to go to get quick little snippets of what's going on. Again, this can all be tailored if social media platforms exist for a specific school site. So Christopher High, they're really big on Twitter. So this is all, I think it's one Facebook post, 2 Instagram posts. This updates real time also, and it's the most recent posts across all social media platforms that we use. So 3 days ago, this would have been 1 Facebook post, 1 Instagram post, and 1 Twitter post, all with the same content, but you can see that it is reflective across 3 different social media platforms. Something that we've learned is that our parents, for the most part, are on Facebook. Our middle school kids are mostly on Instagram, and our high school kids are on Twitter. So we have to, unless it's a big deal news thing like the Garlic Festival, I really differentiate the content across our social media platforms so that it is relevant to the user of that particular platform. So you will never see, Bubble Day at El Roble on Twitter. People who are on Twitter, they don't care about that. The Facebook crowd, those parents, they're the ones who really like that stuff. So you can load as many posts as you want. It's pretty cool. And then at the bottom, the footer of the homepage, these are all.
Favorite?
Pardon me?
Is the bottom not your favorite?
No, the bottom is not my favorite. Just those last 3 sections. But thanks. These are all different resources for folks. Of course, we have required information here. But this is another thing that I'm really proud of. In July, we launched our Community Connection newsletter. And when I checked the analytics yesterday, we had a 78% open rate. And that newsletter was sent to 8,700 email addresses. So once again, it's just another way to tell the story of the district. My goal with that is quick snippets. You get 1 middle school, 1 high school, 1 elementary school tease. You get a superintendent's message, and then you get big things, big district initiatives, but it's really 5 stories, and that's it. People don't have time to read anything more than that. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you might have. Yeah, you're stealing my thunder. You're stealing my thunder. Jose, I'm ready.
Ignore that. Everyone ignore that.
Well, that wasn't a question. That was a statement.
Board members,
Put my heart.
do you have any questions about the webpage?
Thank you. There are actually more. It's okay.
No, actually, I'm really excited that the multiple platforms, social media platforms are unified. And I'm glad that depending on what your flavor is, you can get to it, including none, so you can kind of get to it. So I like that a lot. I like the master calendar. One of the ideas that I've always had is that it should be the place that you go to find places, events for the school district. And I still would like to see that populated, and it seems like it's something where I would like to go to and click high school sports, for example, like a checkbox. I kind of envision this multiple checkboxes where I say high school events, high school sporting events, high school plays, because I think people who like plays will go to any high school to see a play, and thereby support either high school or either school for that matter. But I think for us too, like I found it, that I found it lacking when I wanted to find out where the back to school nights were, because I just didn't know yet. And so I went to the website, because that's initially where I went to, and found that they weren't posted. But it looks like some of that stuff is. So I'd like to develop that even a little bit more. One thing on these 9 boxes that we have up here, one thing that's bothered me, frankly, is that when you hover over like that 2019, for example, and it does something, and it kind of makes me think that I should have clicked there, and it doesn't do anything. I think it either should do nothing, not disappear, or do the exact same thing that you're hovering over right now. Do that exact same link. And that's just from a UI perspective.
Totally.
But that's the only thing. Other than that, everything else looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, looks great.
Joanne?
I'm like super excited about all the social media and everything that you're putting out there, because I think that the district does a lot of great things, but we just, the public at large doesn't know about most of the stuff that we do. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So this is a huge, great step towards dispelling that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like to share with the board also that Dr. Flores approved us launching a communications internship program. So I would like to be at all places, doing all things for all people, and I can't. So I have accepted the fact that I am mortal, and we have some really excellent candidates who are high school students from 3 of our 4 high schools who have applied to be a communications intern. And the beautiful thing about this program is that it's new, and we can develop it to fit the need of the district, and it can evolve over time. So one of the things that we had talked about, and full disclosure, I have a son going into 8th grade who is going to be an actor when he grows up. He is just sure of it. So he has volunteered to actually be a user doing some quick website tutorials for people that we will then push out on social media. So need to find your school calendar? Click here, and he'll be at the computer using it. It'll be cute. It'll be charming. It'll be clunky, which is all the things that I think are great about kids. And we'll just do quick little snippets for users to use. We'd actually planned on doing that last week, and then, of course, we had to pivot. But I think that will be coming in the next few days. Very rudimentary, of course. It'll be filmed on an iPhone, but he's really excited about it. If there are no more questions, yes. Oh,
I
yes.
just have to say the website is actually really user friendly.
Thank you.
So like last year downloading Sports Packet was a pain in the butt.
Yes.
And getting all that done was a pain in the butt. And my husband, he almost wanted to break the computer. But this year was very easy, very seamless. So yeah, this website is great.
There's been a steep learning curve, of course, for us, and then pushing that out to all of the web admins at our high school sites. So Natalie and I support the 8 elementary schools and 2 of the 3 middle schools, and then 2 of the 4 high schools. We'll just leave it at that. And we have a certain aesthetic, we have a certain expectation for content and how it lives and how it looks, and communicating that has been actually surprisingly the biggest challenge for me. I mean, I just feel like people should know what I want because it's in my head, and clearly, right? Which is why I'm not a teacher.
I understand completely.
Yes. Why doesn't it work? So we've spent many hours going over content that already is existing and kind of trying to modify it, clean it up, condense it, whatever.
Check the spelling.
Check the spelling. Yes. Mm-hmm. Take off the
Just
reunion
keep the
information.
I am so excited about this new website. 5 years ago, when I decided to run for the board, I went to the website to get information. I've never been so frustrated in my life.
She ran anyway.
I did run anyway.
She knew she could make a change.
So, and the idea of using social media, because being the former HR person, this is how potential employees find us, and this is what they are judging whether they want to apply to us or not. And we sucked 5 years ago, to be honest. I'm surprised we got anybody to come and work for us. This is so much better for potential employees, as well as those of us who are working here and living here in order to access. It's pleasing to the eye. It's easy to get information. I use the calendars a lot. They're one of my favorite things also because I look to see what's happening at the schools that I'm, assigned to, and just the district in general. So that is a huge improvement, and I really appreciate all of your hard work because the 3 of you have done an incredible job in a year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very, very, very proud of this. It is really my baby. Mm-hmm. If there are no other questions, if you'll indulge me for 3 more minutes,
I
James?
just want to comment. I noticed the URL. You just type in gilroyunified.org. That's
magic.
awesome.
That's all Maribel.
I know.
I have really fantastic people who have contributed tremendously on this project, and there is no way that it would look as good as it looks if they weren't here. So my hats are off to them. Yes.
I would like to encourage that if it's that it's also a resource, obviously, for the community and for external people and potential employees as well. But I would like it to also be a resource for teachers and educators, our staff, and doing a quick search. And I see there's a human resources link, but just doing a quick search on 403 retirement plans, 457, or CALS or STIRS for that matter didn't bring up anything. So that would be something to kind of beef it up a little bit more, is having it be a real good resource for staff,
You mentioned an internal portal. Is that?
I'm logging into it right now.
Okay.
You can direct all HR comments to Paul Winslow. He's at the end of the table. I'm just kidding.
It might be forthcoming, and that's great, but that we should think of them as well, so that it's a one-stop shop for everybody.
So I don't know how quickly this internet is going to move right now, but I just logged into the employee portal. So we moved a lot of information over there for our employees. Oh, I'm really sad if it's not going to work. Come on.
I mean, on the flip side, I did Google Garlic Festival, and that just came up right away, and all the events are all.
You can direct all network questions to Money Balcazar right there. No, just kidding. Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So ideally, this would be signing into our employee portal. I can send, you all can access it actually with your Gilroy Unified email addresses.
Is that the one that's through the county?
No, this is ours. It's unique to us.
Okay, I haven't been to that one. Oh, the login? Okay.
Okay.
All right. You needed 3 more minutes?
I do.
What
I do
were
need
those
3 more
for?
minutes. And Jose's going to just make it beautiful for me. Okay, so given the events of the last 10 days, I think that it would be irresponsible to not talk about the messaging that we did to our families and our community members. So again, a year ago, we had no social media presence for Gilroy Unified School District, which essentially means that somebody else was telling our story all the time. And we are the largest employer in Gilroy, and I think it was not a good look for us. So we opened our Facebook page, our Instagram account, and our Twitter account a year ago. Full disclosure, I have never tweeted once. I had to create a Twitter account to be able to create one for the school district. I am not a fan of Twitter for obvious reasons, because I do not particularly care for the people who use it regularly. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about what happened on our social media platforms in the 2 days following the Garlic Festival. So this photo here is a photo from our Facebook post, but that content was reused across Instagram and Twitter. So I could have dumped a picture from Instagram in here or a picture from Twitter. It would have had the same content tailored to fit the specs of whatever the platform is. So you'll see in the table that we reached over 149,000 people with this first initial post. That is nationwide. We had people sharing it from all over the country. We had people from our community sharing it. If you go over to the far right column, that post was shared almost 1,400 times, which is huge for us on Facebook. It really, I think we did a really good job in the year leading up to this of establishing the school district as the go-to for school district news. And then we did a really great job of establishing ourselves as the resource for the community for information, for resources following the shooting. So Gilroy PD and the city of Gilroy handled the details of the incident, and we began the healing process with resources available for our families and our kids. So you can see the numbers and then the definition, but I think that the total reach is the most impactful thing and is really important. Okay.
I'll add that I was one of the people that shared it as well, and mostly because I had nothing new to add besides that, and you guys caught everything on point. And it was the most effective thing I think that I could do at that moment. And so I took the same thing. I was one of the sharers as well.
Well, thank you. And then we just did a day 2. I just did a day 2 quick view also. We shared 3 posts on the 29th of July. And again, we reached over 20,000 people. So combined total for those first 2 days, we reached 170,000 folks. I mean, that magnitude is quite large. Again, the engagement was very high and the shares were very high. I'm not particularly proud of the reason that we had to do all of this, but I'm really proud of the way that this community responded and engaged with our communication. And I truly believe that we served a lot of families and kids because of this. So then the last thing is, just during the Garlic Festival incident in itself, the last 10 days, this is how we've communicated. I feel like we've blanketed the airwaves to say the least with all of these techniques. We used our website, we used the pop-ups, that we did 3 different ones, and we updated content in the news posts almost daily. 32 posts on 4 social media platforms. The one social media platform that I didn't talk about here is Nextdoor. That's because Nextdoor does not allow school districts to have their own accounts. So I served as the steward for the school district on my own Nextdoor account, but we got great traction on that as well. We communicated with our staff on a very regular basis. One thing that I learned very quickly is that it is important to tell your staff when the next update is coming so that they know what to expect. So even if they don't know the information that will be contained in the update, at least they'll know that it's coming this day, this time, whatever. We communicated well with our parents and our staff members via Aries. We had one kind of hiccup on Sunday night late, but we remedied that quickly and were able to move on. We differentiated our messaging just again in the number of words used via email, on an all call, and on a text. We did 2 formal media statements that were drafted by Mary that I thought were really, really great. And then we had multiple phone calls from multiple news agencies to the point where I changed my voicemail on my cell phone to just say, if you need information, please email me. I will not be responding to any phone calls. And I have 40 voicemails on my phone from the 28th and 29th. And then Dr. Flores' speech at the community vigil, and I think that was extremely impactful and really important for the school district to be there. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you for all your hard work on both redesigning the webpage and by putting the good word and the important words out there. So thank you.
Well
you
done.
and your team.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Item B, update on the enacted state budget and impact to GUSD. Mr. Meza.
Thank you, Mr. President. How do you follow unicorns and rainbows? My goodness.
With lots of money?
This won't be snake holes either, but it's not unicorns and rainbows. The just topics, update on the actual enacted budget, of course, which was signed into law on June 27th. How it impacts Gilroy Unified School District and a revised multi-year projection, of course, and next steps as we look forward to September. So the 45-day budget provision exists for one reason really only. As you know, you approved our adopted budget June 13th, and we have an obligation to have an operating budget by July 1. But the California governor rarely ever signs a budget with time for the trailer bills to be in place, which are needed for us to operationally then take that information and put it into action, revise the budget. Those trailer bills go into July and sometimes even into August, quite frankly, and they just lag. So despite the legislature effectively enacting a budget by June 30th, we will never have an opportunity to have the trailer bills in place for us to come to you and have all those things lined up before July 1. It just won't happen. So this 45-day budget provision relies on the fact that if there are material changes in our assumptions, whether it be revenue or expenditures, we come back to you, board, within 45 days of the enactment of the actual budget, which that deadline would then be August 12th, since the 45th day falls on a Sunday. So key revisions to our budget, there's only 2. One of them we can quantify, and we've made those already. The second one, it's yet to be determined. Information is yet to become available, but at least I can tell you what that is. One of the one that we can quantify and we know about is obviously the pension rates. The enacted budget did reduce the CalSTRS and CalPERS rate. These are pension employer rates that were reduced. So the previous CalSTRS rate for the 1920 year was set to be 18.13%, and the revised rate is now 17.1%. Now, I put up there purposely the 1819 rate with a no change in there, because even though the enacted budget did reduce those employer rates, well, they're still increasing anyway. And that was the point of this slide and the chart is, yes, those rates were revised. It is a relief, a one-time temporary relief spread over 2 years. But the fact of the matter is that those pension obligations and costs continue to escalate. And so we still have a full percentage increase almost of the STIRS rate from 16.28 to 17.1 to 18.4. So they still are going to escalate. And this is just one of the statutory rates. All in all, they'll be over, I think it's 28, almost 30%. And in the case of CalPERS, it is 29 and change percent in terms of unemployment and all the other statutory rates that we have to add on to every dollar we pay in payroll. So this is a real cost to us. But the point of this is we do thank, obviously, the governor and the legislature for that one-time temporary relief. And I'll get to the budget impact in the dollar amount in the next slide. And so that's the positive one. That's the one that we can quantify. The multi-year has that embedded into the numbers. The second one, it's a little bit more complicated, and we don't have information. And so I couldn't revise the multi-year based on anything because I don't have it yet. What we do know is that the budget does include additional revenue for SELPAs, and it targets SELPAs that are currently below statewide average in terms of funding. We know that our SELPA qualifies for that, but our SELPA has two key components, two MOUs that drive that, and there are multiple SELPAs in the county. And so there's a lot to do, meaning a lot of detail work to process, to calculate, go back to the SELPA, go back to the CBOs at the county and all the districts to then recalculate those things. And I don't have all that information available. So expect that to come over the next several months. Hopefully by September we have an estimate from them, but they are advising us that whenever they get it, we'll treat it as one time because the budget has it as one time, and it's based on the legislative priority. So we'll be careful with that $648 million spread to SELPAs and through the 602 funding formula, which is how we get funded. The other key component of that is also unknown at this time, but we have a better feel for that. And I'll get to that in the next slide. It's targeting preschool students with IEPs, with individual education programs that are age 3, 4, and 5, and we have roughly about 84 of those. So again, the first one's implemented, and the other factor, it's yet to be determined, and SELPA estimates are coming sometime over the next several months. Financial impact to GUSD, this is an important slide, of course. So it's a one-time expenditure reductions in our pension obligations, which obviously hit the benefit line, of about $1.3 million over the 2 years. So it's a total of 1.3, just truncated, 700,000 or so 1 year, and then the rest the following year. Obviously, the reduced rates for the pensions help us. We have a need for equipment replacement that we've talked about in the past, equivalent to $1.3 million in terms of Chromebooks and the need to replace these Chromebooks. So we've targeted that one time, and in the subsequent board meetings, future board meetings, will come out with a plan precisely to address that. But that gives us a window and an opportunity to address that issue. These reduced rates are, again, one time, and hopefully the legislature makes them permanent at a future state budget action. And then obviously the special ed, this is just to give you a rough estimate for the preschool component of it, assuming 84 special ed students, just shy of 9,000, but that's for a full day. We operate half days. It's anywhere between 376,000 to 753,000, again, one time. So all this is positive news from the state. We had to revise our budget, of course, for the CalSTRS and CalPERS. And then the special ed funding, they're just estimates for your information right now. They're not incorporated into the multi-year projection that you're about to see. A key element of the special ed piece is that the additional revenue, whenever it is quantified, it doesn't have to be going towards the preschoolers. It could simply help us with a one-time funding of the encroachment, because we all know special ed is severely underfunded. Federal revenue only covers about 9% of their obligation. when they're supposed to be paying 40%. So obviously they've got quite a ways to go there. So it is permissible to just save money, general fund money, whenever it is that we get it.
Say that again. 9% is what they fund in 40?
40%
is what they should?
Yes, 40, correct. Thank you, Trustee Pace. The federal government is supposed to fund special ed 40%, 40%. And what we get is 9% for that. That's why the general fund contributes $15.5 million. That's this year's budget. It's not because we're not operating and, and doing our due diligence. Anna is doing a phenomenal job in special ed. It's just the fact that it's severely underfunded. So one of them is included in the MYP. The other one, of course, isn't. Again, this is just a reminder. Obviously, one of the biggest challenges we have this whole year and for the near term and I think long term is enrollment. And, birth rates tell us that. So this is just to give you an indication of what our projected enrollment is. I just want to know that these are all October numbers. First Wednesday in October, every single data point in here, going back to 1996, is first Wednesday in October. So the opening enrollment of next Wednesday shouldn't alarm us. It's always a little lower than what October, our peak enrollment is. But for the purposes of the state, our enrollment, it's always the first Wednesday in October. We refer that as CBEDS. So we graph this consistently to be the first Wednesday of every single year after we clean up the data, certify it to the state. So that's what these points are. So our projection point in total is 10,941. That's a decline of 177 from the prior year. And you can see that our peak was clearly back in 16-17 at 11,483. And we're projecting that a similar decline from last year is essentially what we're coming up to. This is just a reminder that enrollment is a critical component of it, but our funding is based on average daily attendance. And so that was actually a little bit better in terms of percentage rate from the prior year, right on, I think, 95% almost. But we are still looking at a funding loss of just shy of $4 million, and it will continue if the enrollment loss continues into the future. A reminder of the budget cuts that were implemented, of course, that is $2.8 million. We took action on that. And we're going to go ahead and refine this through a budget calendar process that's coming to you August 22nd, talking about how to address the $1 million budget cuts that we're anticipating for the next subsequent years. This is just part of it, of course, potential school closure in 2021. And so that's part of it, just a reminder that we have a challenging year and subsequent years ahead. The multi-year forecast, this is just a reminder, I don't have a crystal ball. It's not all unicorns and rainbows for me, you know that. And so this is not a prediction, this is a set of assumptions, and my job is to keep you appraised of those changing assumptions and the impact it has on the multi-year. The multi-year looks better precisely because of that pension relief. So I've highlighted the employee benefits. Those are the yellow cells on the unrestricted column that are then reduced. The equivalent savings of those is $1.3 million. It's one time, but it does have an impact of falling at the end, increasing our reserve. So we're in over 9% reserve this year, in maintaining that effectively into the next year because of the $1 million cuts in each of the subsequent years. So every subsequent year from here on out, we at least expect $1 million budget reduction. And you can say, well, why don't you just zero out that cut and, take a hit on the reserves? I wouldn't advise that because these are one time. And we're declining enrollment, meaning the ongoing loss of revenue is ongoing. And these are only one-time relief. And we still have to address the equipment replacement issue, which are very significant. There are about $1.3 million in Chromebook replacements this year, 2 years out. By 2021-22, that third year out, it'll be closer to $6 million. So we're talking about big expenditures in equipment. And that's just Chromebooks. I'm not even starting on equipment replacement in terms of buses, trucks, and fleets, et cetera. So I think that's my challenge, is to figure out a plan, a fiscal plan that gets us to that. The good news is that although we're not done with a year-end closing process, I suspect that we'll end the year in good shape. And hopefully this continues to get better as we look to very challenging years ahead in terms of revenue declines because of enrollment decreases. So this is a good news. Reserves are stable, but expect the final books to be closed in September with a revised budget with a final number as our beginning balance coming into the 1920 year. So the next steps, of course, is what I'm referring to. We'll bring the unaudited actuals, not on August 22nd, as it says there, but in September. A budget development calendar will be presented to you at the next meeting, outlining the series of steps and meetings that we anticipate. That's not to say that we can add or change that calendar. It's just a planning tool, a guide, if you will, for addressing our fiscal concerns into the next year, as we did for this year's budget. And obviously the multi-year forecast will be updated as soon as possible once we get information on the special ed revenue. That concludes the presentation.
I would like to say it appears that a unicorn horn touched that computer because your PowerPoint curse did not come back tonight, so that's good news.
That unicorn is our phenomenal IT team. They've done a lot of work during the summer. I was here most of the summer. Unfortunately, not last week. I was here every single other day other than that, but they were busy. They were busy here in this room. They made, I think, great improvements that you can see and feel. So thank you.
I thought maybe you'd gotten an eye of Newt and burnt some sage or something, because you're the only one that
seemed like I was cursed for a while.
The curse is lifted.
There you go.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Diaz.
Thank you for the presentation. Can you hypothesize why Gavin Newsom or the governor implemented the relief as he did as a one-time? Was it to buy time? Was it to revisit it, to buy some time to revisit it, or was it supposed to be maybe eventually a long-term implementation, or?
Well, certainly our friends in CTA push heavily for it, and certainly board members visited the state to advocate, including Trustee Piceno, on special ed and STIRS, highlighting that need at the state level to the governor and the legislature. But if you look at the original rates for both the CalSTIRS and CalPERS, it was a big 2 percentage point on all those. And that was the first, because they started way in 13-14 on this gradual schedule. And this was the first year that it was a 2 percentage point jump. And so I think it was that pressure of saying, hey, wait a minute. And most districts in California are declining, so it was a double whammy for us. And we were going to feel it. And so I think it was a combined pressure of us advocating, and thank you again, Trustee Piceno, for that, and several school districts going up to Sacramento and highlighting that point. But I think it was also their flaw, quite frankly, in designing such a schedule that really penalizes districts in one single year, effectively doubled the pace of that increase.
Too aggressive.
Yeah, I honestly believe it was an aggressive approach to begin with, but also noting that the fact that LCFF was fully implemented, there was no longer a big gap of new revenues. It was just minimal COLA offered to districts. Most districts are declining, therefore feeling the pressure of every single penny counts. And then just the schedule that they came out with was just too aggressive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yep, thank you.
This brings us to Resolution 1920-01 to adopt the Education Protection Account, Prop 30 spending plan for this year.
Thank you, Trustee Pace.
Mr. Mesa.
I'll cover the item if you allow me on behalf of Kimberly Smith.
I allow you.
Thank you. This is an annual resolution as required by really Prop 55 now. If you recall, Prop 30 was twofold, use tax and income tax on income earners. And then that Prop 30 expired, and Prop 55 was passed in 2016, I believe, and it's only one component now, a tax on income earners in excess of $250,000, and so that's really the ongoing piece of it, and it's estimated to generate about $2.1 million for our district, and that requires us to have an annual resolution, and how we use that $2.1 million is on teacher salaries, and rather than to pick a teacher at every different site, we just isolate one school. It has no reason. We don't have to have a reason. We just pick teachers at Gilroy High, populate it, and we are required to give you an itemized list, although, of course, we just give you position control numbers and itemize that list for you so the public knows and is aware of how we're spending our education protection account money.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. This is a roll call vote, please.
Enrique Diaz,
Yes.
PC Doyle,
Yes.
Quinn Piot,
Yes.
Mark Good,
Yes.
Anisha Winchie,
Yes.
James Case,
Yes.
Linda Paceno,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next, item D, appointment of a GUSD board member to the City Housing Advisory Committee. The city has a housing advisory committee. It's a 9-person board committee, and one of those seats is reserved for a member of this board. The previous board rep is no longer on the board, so the city would like us to pick someone else. Trustee Fayak, I believe, was interested.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so I
It's
nominate.
on my calendar.
I think we should appoint her. If there's any other discussion.
I second the motion.
Thank you very much for stepping up. We appreciate this. We don't have to take this is discussion. So thank you and welcome to some committee.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have items E through O from Mr. Winslow. I guess I prefer you talk through them all and we can do them as a group.
Absolutely, if
Okay.
you're comfortable with that. I first have to say I think that was the fastest nomination I've ever heard in the history of Gilroy Unified. Congratulations. Good evening.
It's just because we have so much faith in Twin.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Flores. As President Pace mentioned, we'll combine all of these, but I'll explain what's exactly in all of these items. Every single year to the Board of Education, we bring requests to approve various what we call emergency permits or permits that allow teachers who are yet to be fully credentialed to work in the classroom. So we try to do this once a year, and we always do it in August, right before school starts, so we can start the year with these teachers in the classroom. Within all of these items, there are 2 categories of emergency permits that we are presenting to the board today. The first category is what we call a variable term waiver, and that is items F and G. A variable term waiver is a permit that we request to the California Teacher Credentialing, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, to authorize teachers to teach in Spanish who have yet to be fully credentialed as bilingual. But each of these 2 teachers are fully bilingual and native speakers. They just lack their credential at the moment, and we confirm that they're in programs and will be compliant probably by the end of this year, if not mid-year. So those 2 items are specific to our teachers who are in the B-CLAD program at the elementary level. The second set of items, and this is the rest of all of the items, is what's known as the provisional internship permit. And while we always look for fully credentialed teachers and we do our due diligence, there are some specific areas such as math and special education that we do find the need to invest in employees with the provisional internship permit as they're working through their program to eventually become fully credentialed. So tonight we're asking that the board take action on agenda items 6E to 6O, and it is an action item.
Thank you very much. Trustee Paceno?
These are all new teachers to Gilroy Unified this year, correct?
Actually, the list that's before you, almost all of them, this is their second year with GUSD.
Okay.
So, which is great. So our strategy is to invest, and a lot of these people are Gilroy natives, which is fantastic, because our strategy is, Gilroy natives, keeping it in Gilroy, because there's investment in the community. So several of these are actually in their second year, because we can do a provisional internship permit, and then we have one other that we can do. All of these, though, have to be fully credentialed for a subsequent year.
So my question for you can email us is how many from last year, so some of these are from last year, are still with us that were on any kind of a non-fully credentialed, and how many of them are making progress toward becoming fully credentialed? And I'll take it offline.
Yeah, well, I can definitely research that. Not off the top of my head, but absolutely,
And
I can do that.
not even tomorrow, but
Okay.
you're a little busy. I get that.
Once we start school, I'll jump on it. But it's a great question. It's a great way to track the success of the emergency permit track.
Any further discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion on these items, which are
6E through O.
6E through O.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motions carry unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. This brings us to item 7. This is a public hearing for a negative mitigated declaration for the Brownell Middle School modernization project. Mr. Nato, would you like to say anything, or should we going straight to the public hearing?
Let's go straight to the public hearing.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. This is your opportunity. If you would like to voice anything about the CEQA project, please step to the mic now. Seeing none, I will close this public hearing. This brings us to item 8A. Approval of the mitigated negative declaration for the Brownell Middle School modernization project. Mr. Nato.
Good evening, Dr. Flores, President Pace, members of the board. Tonight I'm presenting the mitigated negative declaration for the Brownell modernization project. As you've seen, there was no public comments. This document was presented for the last 30 days in public arenas, at the library, here at the district office, on our website, and
State
also in
Clearinghouse?
the newspaper.
Do we have to circulate with the state clearinghouse or is that just okay?
No, just locally. So we have received no comments to date, and at this time I would ask the board's approval for the mitigated negative declaration for the Brownell modernization project.
All right, we have a neg deck before us. I will entertain a motion to approve it.
I move to second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The mitigated negative declaration has been approved. Thank
Excellent.
you, CEQA.
With that,
Now, we come to 8B, contract with Earth Systems Pacific for geotechnical inspection and observation for the Brownell Middle School modernization project.
This is a contract for our geotechs for in periodic inspection for the site, and we're utilizing Earth Systems. We've been using Earth Systems for many of our inspections over the years and multiple services. So that they will, in conjunction, be one of our inspectors for the site.
Any comments or questions? I will entertain a motion.
Second?
We have a motion to approve the contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Passes unanimously. All right. Item 9, board member reports. Ms. Fag.
I'd like to make a report. Well, I have to say I was there on Sunday at Las Animas, and I have to give huge commendation to Paul and the bus driving team. They were calm. They were very efficient. and they moved a lot of people through. So I have to say, great job. And I also heard that there were a lot of, that the staff at Christopher were very accommodating to Community Solutions and other people. And so I have to say that during this crisis, it really, GUSD really shined. You know, there was a lot of, you know, recognition to the police department and the city, and rightfully so. But I have to say, without GUSD, I think things would have been a lot worse.
I agree.
So.
Heroes walk amongst us. So
Paul,
thank
you
you
were
for
just
everyone that.
Commended.
Yep.
For Paul was wearing actually 2 hats that night, working for the Garlic Festival board, right?
Not on the board, no.
Chair of Transportation. So he was working with our bus drivers, wearing that hat, but also helping, of course, as one of our staff members. But he and the bus drivers transported tons of people away from the Garlic Festival.
Actually, yeah, one of the things that I've been looking for.
You have to talk in the mic, sorry.
I've been looking for an avenue to make it publicly aware that we have a fleet of heroes here who drive those yellow buses. In fact, Trustee Fayak definitely saw, she saw us firsthand. She was helping us sort through folks at Las Animas, at our primary reunification center. We estimated we had about 2,500 students, parents, festival goers and vendors come through the foothills into Las Animas, where we sorted them onto buses to get them back to their vehicles and home safely. So much so that the EOC that was set up by the local authorities were expecting about 3,000 folks, and when they came upon a crowd of about 30, they were a little dumbfounded. So we had already dissipated most of the folks. It was a great operation, and in no small part was it, well, it was for our school bus drivers. They stayed and were valiant, and they were communicative, very helpful, and they are definite heroes. So anytime you see them, my hat's off to them, and yeah, they're the heroes of that situation.
Thank you. Twin, thank you. I know you were there helping too.
Trying to.
Yes, no, that's all we were doing. Any other board member reports? Okay. Item 10, upcoming and new referral agenda items. We got stuff coming up. Announcements. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Thursday, August 22nd, right here. A closed session will begin at 5:30, regular meeting at 7 o'clock. Agenda will be posted by 5 o'clock on Friday, August 16th. We are adjourned until then. Thank you very much.